this thing on?
Can't hear me at all, I'm sorry, we're going to get sound in just a minute. But one of the things that we have to be able to do these days is adapt to changing and uncertain circumstances. But together we can do it. What do you think, Ron? Are we ready? Gene's working.
Well, I think I can speak out.
Yes. You got it.
Good morning and welcome to this place of peace, justice, and hope. It's working now. Thank you, Jamie. In this Unitarian Universalist congregation, we affirm no matter who you are, who you love, or where you are on your journey, you are most welcome here. For those of you joining us online, we're so glad you're with us. I am Ron Solberg, and I am pleased to be with you as your worship associate today. If you are visiting with us today, we invite you to sign our visitor's book. Also, members and friends, to help folks connect, remember to wear your name tag, and I remember to wear mine, with your pronoun stickers. If you need a new name tag, you can request that in the living room. Child care for children, the ages of 5 to religious education. But please know that all ages may remain in the service. All voices are welcome here. You are invited to stay after the service for coffee downstairs in the Alice Warren room. Visitors and newer folks are invited to pick up a green mug so that we may know to welcome you and get to know you better. May you each know you are welcome in this house of peace, and may our worship and fellowship this morning touch your hearts, mind, and spirit. Welcome to our celebration of community. The music today will be provided by Jamie Bossman. There is always a lot going on around the church, and you can read all about it in News and Notes, which arrives in your inbox every Friday, and there are printed copies available in the back. If you would like to receive News and Notes, stop by the welcome table in the back. Pamela.
Good morning. I'm Pam Fodor, the Director of Programs here at the church, and I have a couple special announcements. Of course, last night was our fantastic, awesome auction. And I'd like to invite you to raise your hand if you were on our spectacular auction team. Keep them up. Raise your hand if you did something to help out before, during, or after the event. Keep your hands up. Raise your hand if you donated an item. Keep your hands up. Raise your hand if you purchased an item. Keep your hands up. If you didn't make it last night or you left early, there are still some sign-ups for gatherings and items left downstairs in the tables. So raise your hand if you're going to check out the table later. Thank you, everyone. So keep your hands up really high if you had them up. It really, really does take a village to support our church, and we are so grateful for your generosity to support our event. You can put your hands down, and you're going to give yourselves a round of applause when you hear that our preliminary number for monies raised is $22,750. So good job, everybody. If you didn't pay your invoices last night, they are available downstairs, check, credit card, cash. If you could take care of it today, that would be really great. We'd like to get this wrapped up fairly soon. So great job, everybody. And then my second announcement is next Sunday is our annual Stone Soup Sunday. The service will be all ages welcome. We're going to have a replay of our Stone Soup players. And afterwards, we're gonna make stone soup. So Chef Tim's gonna be downstairs making soup. We ask that when you come to church, you bring a small baggie of cut up vegetable, pasta, rice. The soup will be vegan, so please don't bring anything that wouldn't fit in vegan soup. And drop it off in the kitchen downstairs before you come up for the service. During the service, the soup will simmer, and then afterwards we'll share stone soup together. And I think that's all I have. Thanks, everybody.
Applause for Pam Fodor, who was here for hours and hours and hours. For those of you who are new, Pam is our director of programs. She takes care of our religious education program and also supports other programs in the congregation. So I witnessed the work that went into this, and thanks to Nancy Kranz, who was the co-chair. So big round of applause again. And y'all, I don't know if you're like me, but maybe on a Sunday morning when I'm rushing around and I'm like, oh, I forgot my vegetables, you should come anyway, because there is going to be enough soup for everybody, even if you didn't get a chance to bring something. How does that sound? We really want to celebrate our community at the time of when we begin to celebrate Thanksgiving. This morning's service is about making promises. It's about covenant. And by that, I don't mean what you have with your HOA. A covenant is a promise that right? When I first introduced the idea of covenant to one of my congregations, they're like, my HOA? And certainly that is an agreement, but covenant, as we're going to be talking about it today, is about a sacred promise. It's about the promises that we make to ourselves, the promises that we make to each other, the promises that we make in the wider world. And that theme will just weave through our services and our songs and our stories and in our ritual today. We're also recognizing and honoring Transgender Day of Awareness and Transgender Awareness Week. And in the spirit of covenant and acknowledgement and promises, I'm going to begin with a land acknowledgement, recognizing that promises were made and promises were broken for our Indigenous siblings. So we acknowledge that here in the western suburbs, we inhabit areas that are the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples, including the Kickapoo, Peoria, Potawatomi, and many others. As people trying to live into a more just world, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the history and the legacy of colonialism, the harm done to Native peoples, the promises broken, and to work to repair that harm. Because ultimately, that is what covenant is about. It's about repair. It's about being in relationship. It's about understanding that we make promises and that we break them, and then we try and make repair. In a moment, we're going to sing what is one of my favorite songs that is based or assumed to be based on a Rumi poem. Rumi was a Sufi Muslim mystic. The words that we have in our hymnal is, "Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. This was crafted by Lynn Unger, who's a UU poet and minister, taken from Rumi's words. You're going to hear Rumi's words in a moment. You may know by now that there is a line in the poem that we don't see in the hymnal, but that sometimes we sing. It's kind of a descant. And it's, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come, yet again come. Here are translations, other versions of that Rumi poem. Come, come again, whoever you are, come. Heathen, fire worshiper, idolatrous, come. Even if you've broken your penance 100 times, ours is the portal of hope. Come as you are. Here's another version. Come again, please. Come again, whoever you are. Heretic, pagan, even if you promised 100 times, and 100 times you broke your promise, the door is not a door of hopelessness and frustration. This is a door open for everybody. Come, come as you are. It brings new meaning, and I hope some depth to the words that we're about to sing. You get what it means. That we humans are wonderful. We humans are wonderful. And we're complicated. And we are imperfect. We are, in the words of the theologian Martin Buber, the human being is a promise making, a promise keeping, a promise breaking, a promise renewing creature. This song acknowledges that sometimes we need to be reminded and called back in and welcomed, whoever we are, wherever we are. So, beloveds, I'd invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing with me 3 times. And if you want to do that descant, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, you can do that too. Beautiful. Do you feel welcomed in? Do you feel like you can arrive with whatever you have brought with you today? And you may just today know you are a vow breaker, but you are welcome. Invite us into worship this morning with words by the Reverend Angela Herrera. Don't leave your broken heart at the door. Bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. It has high standards. The world needs vision. Bring them with you. And your joy and your passion. Bring your loving and your courage and your conviction. Bring your need for healing and your power to heal. There is work to do, and you have all that you need to do it in this room. In this time of uncertainty and of fear, in a time when it feels as though the ground has been pulled out beneath us, breathe. Send your roots deep down into the earth because the ground is still there. Bring all of who you are. There is work to do, and you have all that you need to do it in this room. It is good to be together.
The healing cup, the story of our flaming chalice. And I'm going to light that right now. Many Unitarian Universalist churches and fellowships start their worship service on Sunday morning by lighting the flame. This flaming chalice is a symbol for Unitarian Universalists. The story of how that flaming chalice became our symbol begins during the Second World War. During that war, a lot of people living in Eastern Europe, Unitarians, Jews, and others, were in danger of being put in prison or killed by Nazi soldiers. A group of Unitarians came together in Boston, Massachusetts to form the Unitarian Service Committee, and their plan was to help the people in danger from the Nazis. The director of the service committee was the Unitarian minister Charles Joy. Joy had an office in Portugal, so he would be near the people he wanted to help. He was in charge of a whole secret group of agents and messengers who worked hard trying to find safe routes for people to escape. Reverend Joy and his assistants often needed to ask governments and other organizations for their help to save people who were in danger. They would send messages to anyone in government who might give them money, transportation, or a safe route. Because they were a new organization, though not many people had heard of them. They made it much harder for Reverend Joy and the people in the Unitarian Service Committee to get the help they needed. In those days during the war, when danger was everywhere, lots of people were running away from their own countries. Often people who were escaping and people who wanted help didn't speak the same language. Reverend Joy decided it would be much better if the service committee had an official symbol or picture to help identify its members. With a picture or symbol, it wouldn't matter if people couldn't read the language. It looked like Reverend Joy would need to find an artist. He went to a very talented man named Hans Deutsch for help. Deutsch had escaped from the Nazis in Paris, France, where he was in danger because he drew cartoons showing people how evil the Nazis were. Reverend Joy asked Deutsch to create a symbol to print on service committee papers to make them look important. He wanted the symbol to impress governments and police who had the power to help move people to safety. When Deutsch designed the flaming chalice, he had never seen a Unitarian or Universalist church or even heard a sermon. What he had seen was faith in action, people who were willing to risk all for others in a time of urgent need. For his drawing, Deutsch borrowed an old symbol of strength and freedom from Czechoslovakia, a chalice with a flame. Reverend Joy wrote to his friends in Boston that a new symbol seemed to show the real spirit of the Unitarian religion. It showed a chalice or a cup that was used for giving a healing drink to others. And it showed a flame on top of that chalice, because a flame was often used to represent a spirit of helpfulness and sacrifice. And so the flaming chalice became. What does it mean to have a symbol like this? Well, one thing it means is that wherever you see a flaming chalice, you know that there are Unitarian Universalists nearby. Having a symbol also can remind you of what's most important to you. And sometimes a reminder can make a very big difference. One very old woman told how the flaming chalice of her homeland, Czechoslovakia, helped her while she was in Nazi prison camp. Printed under the picture of the Czech flaming chalice was the motto, Pravda Vědčí, which means in English, truth overcomes, or truth prevents. Every single morning in that terrible camp, the old woman said she traced a picture of a flaming chalice in the sacred sand with her finger. And then she wrote the motto underneath. It gave me the strength to live each day, she said. Whenever she drew the chalice in the dirt, she was reminded that someday the world would remember the important truth that every single person is important and should be free. When we light the chalice at the beginning of our service every Sunday, we can enjoy it because it is a lovely thing to do. But we also remember the story of the flaming chalice and the strength it has given people for so many years. And we are reminded of the promises that we make to each other and to the world to be a place of sanctuary and to work for justice. Please join us now in our chalice lighting words. May we be reminded here, inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar. No, once again, we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, in this community, and to each other. Now, Pam Porter.
So I have a story to share, and there's not going to be a lot of slides. It's going to be pictures in the book. So I invite the young or young at heart to come up so you could see the pictures. Oh, sure. Can't do it. Oh, there, I got it. Oh. Can I move this? All right. Anybody basketball fans? LeBron James is a big basketball player. So the grown-ups are going to talk about promises today. Could anybody know what a promise is? Yes.
It's a promise that you make to your friends.
Yeah.
It's something that you keep.
Something that you make to your friends. It's something you keep.
It's
Yeah, it might be a secret. You might whisper, "I promise."
it's like a promise that you would do something.
Yeah, it's a promise that you do something. And we promise, as Unitarian Universalists, we promise to do some things with each other, and we make promises to ourselves and to each other as a church and to the world to be good people and do good things for others. And this book will kind of illustrate that. All right, there we go. I promise to work hard and do what's right to be a leader in this game of life. I promise to go to school and read as much as I can, to follow the rules and to respect the game plan. I promise to run full court and show up each time, to get right, back up, and let my magic shine. I promise to be open and try new things, and to enjoy the happy that change can bring. I promise to wear a big smile and use kindness when I speak, to remain strong yet humble with every win and each defeat. I promise to ask for help whenever I need it, to reach for my star even when I can't see it. I promise to ask questions and find answers, to believe in next time and second chances. I promise to use my voice and stand up for what's right, and when things get tough, to keep up the fight. I promise to stand tall, rise up, and give all that I've got, to throw the alley-oop and uplift others on the spot. I promise to respect my elders and peers the same, to leave new places better than I came. I promise to stay true, keep my head up, and never give up, no matter what. I promise to dream big and love bigger, to be a team player and a winner. I promise to cross bridges and break down walls, to rise with the sun and learn from the falls. I promise to be courageous, to be free, to strive for greatness. I promise to be me. The end. All right, thanks for sharing this story with me, and now we'll go off to class.
We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work, and we are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and the world that they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and hope. And please join me in the offertory words. This church is made of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, the people around us, and with all the world.
My name is Carol Peterson. I'm the chair of the LGBT plus Welcoming Congregation Committee. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a 30-something white person with long red hair. I'm wearing a skirt, a shirt and tie, and a hat. We're in the middle of Trans Awareness Week, and November 20th is the Trans Day of Remembrance. Because we're talking about covenant today, I wanted to share with you that our mission statement and our covenant, and then talk a little bit about it. The LGBTQIA+ Welcoming Congregation Team's purpose is to shape our church and society into a safe, equitable place where all LGBTQIA+ people are welcomed and valued as whole persons in all aspects of congregational life. To ensure that we are welcoming to all lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, and two-spirit persons, and to all other marginalized orientation and gender alignments, we covenant to be a place of welcoming and acceptance. This is not a place where you have to defend who you are or a place where people question you. Educate those around us from a place of love so that all those who enter in are understanding and able to love everyone. Support those in our church and the wider community in creating a culture of love as well as with monetary and emotional support. Be outgoing in who we are, not only what we have been, but we will be open to what we can and will be, and continue to advocate for welcoming and to make it a part of who we are and not just something special. We came up with these words after much discussion and reflection. These words were chosen very carefully, making sure that each word or phrase of the mission statement reflected what we wanted for our future. This covenant is our wish and promise for the future. This starts from a place of welcoming. As the covenant says, this is not a place to defend your identity. There may be questions, but not negations. This rolls easily into the next point. Education, I truly believe, will set us free. Understanding people is the first step to no longer viewing them as other. Supporting those around us is something that we are all called to do, be it with our time, talent, or treasure. This can be in many ways, from a friendly face to working with organizations like the Pink Haven. The Pink Haven is a collective of organizations and individuals who are committed to trans liberation and to growing community defense, mutual aid, and alternative systems of care for gender diverse people. They are working to create networks of safety and direct support for trans beloveds and their families who need to relocate, access health care across state lines, or stay as safe as possible where they are. Beyond education, I believe that the most important part of being a welcoming congregation is acknowledging that things change. 20 years ago, states were still passing anti-gay marriage laws, and ignoring some of what's going on now, we have gay marriage rights. 50 years ago, there were a lot of anti-queer slurs, such as the word queer, being tossed around, and now a lot of them have kind of left the public consciousness or have been reclaimed. This also means that just because we were taught in school that they, them is only for plural doesn't mean that English can't change to include it, except English has always had they, them as a singular pronoun. This also means that when we learn something new in the future, we're not going to dig our heels in because it's always been this way, but we're going to embrace the change and support our siblings. Finally, we are advocates. Almost everything needs to be renewed year after year, generation after generation. It's not something we can stop just because we've had one pride service or because some people put pronouns on their name tags. I love this church, and I'm sure almost everyone here wants to make me feel welcome. But part of the reason I feel I'm welcome is because I've made this place my home and y'all know me. I want the people who are here for the first time, who are just church shopping, to feel welcome. Not because we want the diversity bump or because it's something we do to check a box when we welcome people, but because we truly want to welcome everyone. And everyone is just the sum of parts. Their gender identity or sexual orientation is only one of those parts. All right, I'm gonna go down there, and if you're gonna be part of our trans remembrance service, please come up, and then we'll start that in a second. We remember the names of the transgender people whose lives have been lost to anti-transgender violence this year and can continue to demand increased and accurate media coverage of transgender people in their lives and in death. These are the names of the transgender people we know of whose lives have been taken due to anti-transgender violence, but it should be noted that these crimes are often misreported, go unreported, or are not reported at all. This year, there are 26 people on this list. Last year, there were 30. In 2022, there were 40. And in 2021, there were at least 68 people killed due to anti-transgender violence.
San Coleman, a black trans person, was killed in Atlanta, Georgia on October 19th. She was 48 years old. Honey Daniels, a black trans woman, was killed in Rochester, New York on October 3rd. She was 37 years old. Kasim Omar, a Somali trans woman, was killed in Columbus, Ohio on September 6th. She was 29 years old.
Red, also known as Barbie, a black trans woman, was killed in Chicago, Illinois on September 8th. She was 25 years old. Ty Lethan, a black trans woman, was killed in Baltimore, Maryland on August 4th. She was 24 years old. Vanity Williams, also known as Chanel Williams, a black trans woman, was killed in Houston, Texas on August 3rd. She was 34 years old.
Dylan Gurley, a trans woman, was killed in Denton, Texas on July 24th. She was 20 years old. Monique Brooks, a black trans woman, was killed in Orlando, Florida on July 19th. She was 49 years old. Shannon Boswell, a black trans woman, was killed in Atlanta, Georgia on July the 5th. She was 30 years old.
Angie Spurgeon, a black trans person, was killed in Seattle, Washington on July 1st. They was 23 years old. Polly Likens, a trans girl, was killed in Shannon, Pennsylvania on June 23rd. She was 14 years old. Liara Kale Tsai, a trans woman, was killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota on June 22nd. She was 35 years old.
Tay Dior Thomas, a black trans girl, was killed in Mobile, Alabama on May 7th. She was 17 years old. Jaslyn Johnson, a trans girl, was killed in Carson City, Nevada on May 6th. She was 18 years old. Keita B., a black trans woman, was killed in Kansas City, Missouri on May 3rd. She was 46 years old.
Andrea Doria dos Passos, a Latina trans woman, was killed in Miami Beach, Florida on April 22nd. She was 37 years old. Star Brown, a black trans woman, was killed in Raleigh, Tennessee on April 19th. She was 28 years old. Navia River Goddard, a non-binary teenager, was killed in Stowe, Massachusetts on April 10th. They were 17 years old.
T. Arnold, a black trans man, was killed in Helendale Beach, Florida on April 7th. He was 36 years old. Maraxis Medina, a Latina trans woman, was killed in Los Angeles, California on March 20th. She was 24 years old. Alex Franco, a trans man, was killed in Salt Lake City, Utah around March 18th. He was 21 years old.
Diamond Cherish Brigman, a black trans woman, was killed in Houston, Texas on March 16th. She was 26 years old. Reina Hernandez, a Latina trans woman, was killed in Renton, Washington around March 8th. She was 54 years old. Africa Parilla Garcia, a Latina trans woman, was killed in San Juan, Puerto Rico on February 2nd. She was 25 years old. Sasha Williams, black trans woman, was killed in Las Vegas, Nevada on January 26th. She was 36 years old. Kitty Monroe, a Latina trans woman, was killed in Phoenix, Arizona on January 1st. She was 43 years old.
We light these candles in the memory of those people who have been lost. And we pray for a future where we will not have to light these candles.
I would invite you to join me into a moment of silent reflection. Beloved, inasmuch as we hold silence in this moment, we also vow to break the silence. We vow, promise, to use our voices, our resources, our energy, our passion, and our love to be the sanctuary, the safe haven, the passage for those who are in need, near and far. In dangerous times, we're called to make a way. A long time ago, our African American siblings talked about making a way out of no way, that God did that, the Holy did that, and we do that as well. So often our trans siblings and our queer siblings hear that they are not loved and hear stories of how they should be as opposed to how they are. And we sing in a moment for them, for you, for any of you in any capacity have been told that you are anything less than beautiful. Sing with me. I hope you sang that to yourself and you held in your heart all who need to hear those words. Carry them with you. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? Invite you to take a breath because, as I have often said, the breath is what connects us to each other, to all life,
and connects us to the life that will come. The breath reminds us that we are living beings connected each to each in a whole that is more than we could ever be alone. We pause in this time, knowing that we come, each of us, with joys, with sorrows, to be affirmed, to be held, to be seen, to be heard, to be known. We share our joys and sorrows with one another, knowing that in the sharing of joys, our joy is multiplied and more love pours into the world. We share our sorrows because we know in sharing our sorrows that we are held in this container, in this sanctuary, and not alone. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you would like to share, I'm going to invite you to come forward, and you are going to want to come forward on this side because there's flame on the other side. And y'all, we may have been burned at various times in our lives, but I don't want you to be burned here. I want to remind you as well, beloved, that a pebble can be dropped in silence. And also just invite you to share a word or a phrase and bring what is on your heart.
This is a joy for Tim, who's downstairs probably still. He gave us wonderful food, a big variety, vegan and non-vegan last night, and he should be thanked for that. Thank you.
I have a joy and a concern, and I'm sorry, it's more than a phrase. I have a concern that at my firm, I don't have a bookkeeper. And my joy is that I know a lot of people, any one of whom might know someone who wants to do a few hours of bookkeeping a week in a QuickBooks environment.
Hi, my name's Suzanne. So I just wanted to thank Lauren and Carol for the wonderful bake-off that we did last weekend. It was so much fun, and it was challenging but rewarding.
I have two joys to share. And it kind of fits in with this week. I am the volunteer coordinator for Plainfield Pride. I'm an ally, and I take care of our volunteers for all the good things we do in the community. And Friday, we had our first Friendsgiving dinner, and it was amazing and wonderful and very well attended. My second joy is that I don't know if any of the women or the men here are aware of a group on Facebook called SWEEP. There is now one called SWEEP Chicagoland, and it is a group of people who are working to try and make things better in the political environment that we have. And I went to the first meeting yesterday, which was at Miller's Ale House in Lombard, and there were 42 other women and men there. So we're gonna fight back.
I'm Darren, and I put in 3 pebbles of concerns for Anne Marie and Kevin, and for Aaron and Phil and Frankie. That's a family.
I'm Nancy. No, I'm not going to talk about the auction. The prison ministry normally holds their holiday card writing event downstairs in what's called now the history room. They've moved over to Joshi. I hope you will come over there and help. they write cards to prisoners people who are incarcerated, I should say. And believe me, they are so thankful. I've received letters back from people. The return address is the church. But the joy that they have and the joy you have writing these cards is wonderful. So I hope you'll join the prison ministry over in Joshi. If you know where that is, that's in the RE building. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lucy Ann, and I'm expressing joy for everyone who has participated over the last year and a half for our donations of meals to homeless being housed by Beds Plus. I appreciate all the generosity, and I know they do too.
I'm Eric. Our oldest son, Logan, had been advocating for a cat, so 2 months ago we adopted a rescue named Juniper, and she's a joy.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I grew up in this church, and then I was gone for a very long time, and I'm very happy to be getting involved again. And the thread really that sort of kept me connected in the last 20-some years since I moved back to this area is the play reading group. So even though I'm newly getting reacquainted with the church, I know some of you very well from that group, and I'm very happy to say that Jeff and I are hosting the play reading group this Saturday. It's at 2 p.m. It's a matinee. We'd love to see anyone who's interested.
Several stones, because I can't tell you the age of this lady, but happy birthday to Julia Beckman.
All right, y'all. Julia Beckman has been our choir director since 1974 and is an amazing musician, is an amazing love, is an amazing spirit, is an amazing fighter. Julia, deep, deep, deep bows to you, colleague. Yes, yes. This is a pebble for Harriet Goff, who fell and broke her hip, and she'll be having surgery, and we're just sending her all sorts of love and support. For all those joys and sorrows, those spoken and unspoken, I invite you to hold with me a moment of silent reflection. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Holy One moving in, through, and among us. In our joys and in our sorrows, in our announcements, in our gatherings, we affirm our community, that indeed we are together, we are more than we would ever be alone. For those who are suffering or worried or afraid, we hold them in our hearts and send comfort and peace and love wrapped like a blanket. For those celebrating, may their celebrations and their joys be a hope for us. May we promise one another to be present as possible, to pray, to hold in our hearts as we move through the week and through our lives. May we remember, may you remember this, always and everywhere. You are held in love and mystery deeper than you can know. Beloved, as we consider covenant in our faith and in our lives, as we bring to the service to a close in just a few moments. The song that we're going to sing is We Would Be One. It's number 318. It's to a beautiful tune by Sibelius. And the song in itself is an invitation. It is a call. It is an aspiration. So I'm going to invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing with me. Thus do we covenant. Are words that we often say after we share the covenants that we make in our congregations, in our committees. And it's an affirmation. It is, yes, this is what we covenant. A covenant is a promise. It is not an empty, yes, I think I can do this. It is a sacred agreement. We gather in communities to support one another in our searches for truth and meaning, and in so doing, we create what UU theologian and ethicist Sharon Welch calls alternate socialities, communities of resistance and solidarity. We make promises and covenants, as we heard, with ourselves, our families, our friends, and with the wider world. The covenant for this congregation is we promise to listen and learn together with compassion, curiosity, and an open mind. We promise to engage in a warm and welcoming community, to work together and beyond our walls to address social and environmental challenges, and with our time, talent, and treasure support our church and its mission. But what is that mission? Covenant is always tied into mission. We promise to be together, and there's a phrase that goes with covenant. Actually, Conrad Wright, a Unitarian historian, talked about a covenant being agreeing to walk together in the ways of love. I love the way that sounds. I love the way that calls us into being and into action. And we might say to journey together in the ways of love. So the mission of the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale is a welcoming, caring community celebrating Unitarian Universalist values. We share creative, expressive worship, vibrant religious education, and a commitment to a just world. We inspire spiritual exploration and personal growth, appreciation of diversity, and courageous compassionate action. When I came to this church about 1.5 years ago, as I considered who you were and who we could be together, the things that stood out for me is the aspirations and the intentions, a commitment to a just world, a commitment to spiritual growth, to courageous, compassionate action. And if there were ever a time, beloveds, that we are called to deepen and grow spiritually, to be grounded in our values, which are centered in love, and to take that out into the world, to nurture ourselves in community and know that we take that out to the wider world. This is who we say we are, not and how we want to be, not for ourselves alone. And so I'm going to share with you words of covenant, and there's going to be a time we're going to explore the history of covenant more deeply. But I love these words by the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. Let us covenant with one another to keep faith with the source of life, knowing we are not our own. Earth made us. Let us covenant with one another to keep faith with the communities of resistance, never to forget that life can be saved from that which threatens it, even small bands of people choosing to put into practice an alternative way of life. Let us covenant with one another to seek for an ever deeper awareness of that which springs up inwardly in us, even when our hearts are broken by our own failure and the failure of others cutting into our lives, even when and life is still broken. Beloveds, we recognize the power of mutuality in relationship and the call to justice and radical love that awakens in us. We hear a growing band of people who, in fidelity to our interdependence, choose to practice to the best of our ability an alternative way of life that embodies our solidarity with those who are oppressed or that life that is in jeopardy. Our covenants provide the framework for hearing and holding one another, for carrying out our work together here and in the world. And beloved, we know that the world is calling us, isn't it? Calling us, inviting us, longing for a future that is not fixed. History is contingent. I read by a Daily Kos writer recently. History is contingent, not fixed. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King made popular a phrase by Unitarian bend towards justice. Some of us are questioning that bend. I believe that what Reverend Parker and Dr. King meant is it just doesn't bend by itself, but we help bend it and hang on to it. This covenant with the world is embodied by the promises that we make in these times. To live into the promise of a world where we do not stand here and read the names of trans siblings who've been murdered in this country. To live into the promise of a multicultural, multiracial democracy that is just on the verge of being born, but that seems so threatening to some. But as we embody our promises and live our call to the world, we can make that happen. Events are possible, not certain, the writer said, dependent on chance and free will. No matter how elaborate the planning, what actually happens depends on a host of unpredictable things, from weather disruptions to accidents to acts of courage. I suggest that we ourselves be a host of unpredictable things and engage in acts of courage. And this is what I said last week, and I want to reinforce it now. You don't have to do everything. You can just do one thing. And when you need to take a break and breathe, you do that. The Reverend Dr. William J. Barber has said, "This is a marathon, not a sprint. Beloveds, this is a relay." And so together, we will make promises, we will break promises, we will renew our promises, and together, we shall keep love at the center. To ask in this moment, in every moment, what is love asking of me? I invite you to join me in our chalice extinguishing words. Oh, I wonder where they are. Let's see if I have them. There we are. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of our truth, the warmth of this community, or the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world. Now you know what's coming, right? We sang this song 2 weeks ago, Julia and Jamie, 2 weeks ago, as we considered what does it mean to listen to all the cries. So now we sing it again as a call, as a promise. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing with me. Our benediction, you may be seated, is by L.R. Nost. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go. Love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is in you. Amen. I love you. And blessings. I invite you to rest for a moment and hear our closing song.